Alright everyone, welcome back to another episode of Psychonaut Sessions. Today I'm going to continue my coverage of Warlock 5, but not just with issue 2, but also issue 3. I'm going to try to move through these fairly quickly. We're still got writing chops by Gordon Derry and art chops by Denis. Can never pronounce his last name because I'm horrible at pronunciation. Bevois. Not really sure, but here he started kind of doing for the next few covers just headshots of the main characters. So here we got Xenia, the like punk rock warlock, and then here we have Dumador, the medieval knight guy of that realm on issue 3. Really cool. I really just love the Warlock 5 logo. And these kind of close-ups. Now, I kind of figured that because of this, they were going to be heavily featuring that character, like with a backstory and stuff in each one. It's not really what's happening. In fact, he's not even the most prominently featured in this one. So I think it was just, you know, we're going to do this, but we got some great airbrushed, I guess, work. It looks at least very airbrushy, especially in this one. Um, I think nowadays, I know I've seen pictures of Denis. He's primarily, painting, I think, in oils. And you do see a little bit of those kinds of textures here. This one looks mostly airbrush with some actual, like, looks like pastel or pencil, like dark pencil work, especially on the hairs and stuff. But just absolutely amazing. 1986. If you saw this on the stands, how are you not picking it up? I mean, how many Trapper Keepers even kind of looked like this? It exudes rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm all about. Nothing I really want to cover in the editorial, but hella goddamn, look at that splash page. How much more punk rock can you get with that? Even with a chevron tattoo, you got her armpit hairs, just bam, 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 blast, blast, blast. This is one hell of a splash page. You got amazing lighting coming off of the blast of the gun, matched by the darkness up here. Incredible letters of rat-tat-tat. You got your bullets shattering into the air. The letters even go out behind her. One of the best splash pages I've seen in quite some time. And then this is the result. It's almost like it's a pea gun. Pew, 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 pew. It's like, what? Okay. So, one thing I really enjoy about Denis' work is that it's very dynamic. There's like, he is obviously trying very hard to play with painting as well as regular illustration, even some cartooniness, so on and etc. But one thing that we're going to find here is that his action scenes don't always play out that well all the time. And it's because he gets so precise in his drawing of vehicles, especially, but also sometimes backgrounds, that it loses some of the dynamic fervor that some of the action is actually trying to convey. So Xenia is, remember, the kind of the head of these group of like zombie kinds of people. Basically, they're arguing and bickering. If you recall, in the last episode for Warlock 5, she kind of ambushed Tanith and what's his name, Shavistar. But she's here just like, come on, I'm just playing. I was just playing. Wasn't really trying to hurt you, but they didn't think that was funny. So they're taking off, and she tells them, just get out of my way. I'm going to control the grid, which is the 5 dimensions the 5 warlocks are having to, that they're all fighting over. And Tanith is like, bitch. And then she's like, fuck, and like shoot them as they drive away. And that's all that happens. They take off, and Xenia's like, fuck this, let's go party. And as she's doing that, Argon has one of his Star Wars looking minions kind of spying on Xenia as she's driving off. That's 2 strikes against you, Xenia, wretched biological parasite. Totally Terminator-esque, but still just fucking cool. So here we get Zania's headquarters and hideout, which is like an old church that's been retrofitted into some horrible horror show. She's all like Zania is rock and roll and Halloween mixed. Eddie, the mascot from Iron Maiden, would be her husband. Should be her husband because it's just um, that's Zania's playbook right there. So she goes into the chapel, and we got like zombies partying, riding motorcycles. There's like tortured people. You got giant speakers. So she's just all about rock and roll and going nuts. She goes in and she turns on her synthesizers and just boo, let's rock. This is totally got to be for like a Ralph Bakshi take. Like this is 100%. I think came from like American pop or something like that. Like it's just um, it exudes heavy metal. The cartoon it exudes Ralph Bakshi. I feel like this is like a perverse version of Cool World. It's just incredible. It's everything that I want to be reading. Um, I love it. So she's rocking out, and she is like, "Hey, um, Kamuri, who is like her like second in command, go get some beer so we can really party." Now, this woman and her entourage of zombie, freakoid, anarchistic, satanic crew, like you would think it would be like whiskey or something or tequila, like beer. Like, go get beer so we can really party. Like, really? Okay, that's beer's what makes you go nuts. Or like like they would be doing something like crank or something. So here we get Argon back, and like he's hiding out somewhere in another parking garage, um, and getting in this Lamborghini. Now look how amazing this is. This is incredible work. And it almost looks like real, like he took a picture. But again, as we're seeing, like this is supposed to be zooming away. It looks like it's just kind of creeping away. And that almost does look like a photograph. I almost wonder, I mean, obviously he's using reference, but I almost wonder if he was doing like a light box and kind of tracing over and just like went in and made it really precise, or it could be Photoshop because there is like an image, I think in issue 3, that looks like it is just a photocopied image. So he's kind of blending all sorts of things here. So we get Argon and his henchmen following Zania's henchman, who's going and getting a bunch of beer, in case you didn't see. Really beautiful painting work done here, though, where it's a wet street and you get all the reflections of the light, kind of just like gorgeous. I mean, there's one way to create mood, and it's actually a fairly simple thing that you can do in painting. Um, but just wonderful work. But again, here, so we get this Lamborghini chasing after Zania's guy. Um, it's okay here. You get that sense of movement, but then we start losing that sense of movement because he's trying to focus on what's going on here, where Argon is putting some kind of mechanical monster thing, kills Zania's dude, and then this is one of my biggest complaints here. Then you get the front of his van, and then it hits the car and he's flying out. Now, this should look way faster. Like, technically, like if you took a picture of a vehicle, like this is all beautiful. It's so well articulated, but you're losing a lot of them. This doesn't look like a van that's rushing up onto a telephone pole. Plus, I mean, you could at least have the telephone pole like buckling a little or something. Some speed lines here. It just like, you're losing some of like the energy a little bit. But I mean, who am I? This guy is like a million times better artist than I am. But I'm just kind of looking at this. It's not about being critical. It's about looking at it from a way that I would improve upon it if I was the artist and if I had an opportunity to go back. So what they're basically doing is that they're taking this dude. They killed him, and one of Argon's robots is dressed like him because they can, like Terminator, they can have like flesh over their robot forms, and is going in to infiltrate Zenya's stronghold. The dog is barking just like in Terminator. When Terminators were around, if you ever read the Terminator comics, oh, those would be fun to take a look at. Goes into the stronghold. Zenya's is just there rocking out with a bunch of zombies. He comes in with the beer, and she's like, "It's about time." And so they all drink beer and then look at. So here's another completely different style. It's all just pen, and it doesn't even look like brush pen. This almost looks like very sharp micron ballpoint kind of style pen work. And because of the beer, then these like zombie creatures are just in orgy form. It's just like, wow, this is all it takes, huh? But a lot of crazy details. She's synthesizing away, and we find out that her doing the synthesizing work is actually part of her magic. Because again, these are all warlocks, remember? Um, and it's part of her magic where she's creating this kind of portal where she brings Wraiths in. Now, this is an amazing image. Like this is like incredible stuff. A great use of light and airbrushing in order to make the light look very palpable. And so what she does is she has these wraiths come in, possess corpses, and then she's able to control them, especially as long as she has her magical circle intact. But of course, the Argon's henchman comes and starts choking her, interrupts the ritual, and Argon himself breaks in and starts attacking and shooting, and they go into a shooting match for a while. The action here is actually pretty cool. I really like the lettering. Of course, I'm just a sucker for lettering like this, like the just a frenetic, just. Um, and we got a lot of pretty good action lines. So he's really taken off here, having a great time. Zania just looks kind of ridiculous sometimes, but I think she's kind of meant to. And again, cool use of silhouettes whenever he starts getting into it. But something bad happens here. Argon shoots a missile right at her portal and shoots a hole into it, which is a big problem because now she's not able to control the wraiths, and they're out and free. So they're pretty much like, oh shit, you let the race go. Now we're fucked. And there's a hole in the floor, a hole in the dimensions or whatever. So that sucks. And then we get that cartoon thing, which I'm not going to cover, that cartoon segment. So pretty cool. And then flipping to issue 3, we'll kind of see where we're going at in the continuation with this. So here is the hideout that Tanith and Savastar were hiding in. Now, this looks very similar to what we saw in issue 1. I should have pulled out issue 1. I could see in issue 1's picture of this, of how, where the actual line work was done. Looking at this getting even up close, I think this is a photograph. I think it's a photograph, and I think he photocopied this into the work. Which sometimes I'm like, well, I mean, as detailed as he made the first one, I give him props. But sometimes when people do that in a comic, I'm just like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It actually kind of worked here because I was actually convinced that was still his drawing at first when I first went through this. So Tanith and Savastar are chatting. She's pissed. She wants to take Zania out. And he's like, no, 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 we got to. Great use of the lighting here and the blinds. I love this scene. I love this. I'm probably going to swipe this at some point in time for one of my own books because it's just beautiful, gorgeous. Doorbell rings, and it's the paper boy. I guess she gets the paper. these warlocks from these other dimensions. He gets the paper delivered, and he's coming to collect. I want my $2. If you get that reference, give me a shout out in the chat. But he's actually possessed by one of the wraiths that were loose by Xenia. The wraith jumps out of the poor boy and swipes at Tanith, cuts her. She's pissed. You marred my beauty, and shoots him with her magic. And unfortunately, when you kill a wraith, you kill the host that it was possessing, unfortunately. So the poor boy died. She doesn't care that this poor boy at all was just burned and mutilated and possessed by a demon. She's all crying about her face. My face, my beautiful face. He's like, you still look beautiful to me. She's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to go take Xenia out. So, has nothing to do with the fact that this poor boy was, demolished. It's that you gave me scars and I am beautiful, and I'm going to go kill you now. Alright, so let's switch scenes. And there's apparently this restaurant called Brothers Restaurant, and it is kind of the safe zone of all these dimensions. So it apparently is a place where they all have to be neutral. They can't hurt one another. And we got Xenia and Argon, who's dressed in flesh form, meeting up with Dumador and his wizard Morbid that we saw in the first issue. That was in that really cool splash page of the first issue. Speaking of which, not impressed by this splash page compared to the first two splash pages of issue 1 and 2. I'm just saying, those other two were badass. That one was a photocopy. So they're meeting and they're discussing, and they're basically saying, you know what, we accidentally broke Xenia's portal. Now there's all these wraiths out and we need your help. He's like, yeah, whatever the fuck, I'm not going to do that. And then these wraiths start popping out of the wall and start causing trouble and attacking everyone. And Morbid shoots some magic, kills a wraith, and they're like, okay, I guess we better help you. Now, the detail you notice, some of the detail in this work is being lost compared to issue 2. And you see some of it in the first few pages, but he's photocopying the splash page, and now we're just going to just a simple brush, and there's no tones. And the brush is way thicker, and it's not as precise as some of the other illustrated pen work, or at least the brush itself is just thicker, and he's not getting as detailed here. Now, it's still excellent work, but I think probably Denis and Aracel were like, well, we have deadlines to meet. We can't wait for you to fully paint, each issue and get all that detailed. And now he's just like going straight in with the brush and just straight illustration with no tones, no shades, and it is mildly disappointing. Now I get it, timing, and you've got to like produce a monthly book, and I appreciate that, but I really miss that here, especially since some of those tones are lost and it's kind of hard to make out what's going on. So basically they've agreed to team up. Tanith comes out and is ready to attack Xenia because you marred my face and blah blah blah, even though it was the Wraith. And Savistar and everybody, they all basically kind of come to a truce and say, no, we got to kind of work together, to make this happen. We got to mend the hole in the portal, and we can only do it with our power combined with Morbid the Wizard using our power and channeling us. So that's what they're doing. They go back together. Again, the brushwork is all good, but we lose some of the detail that was really amazing in the first couple of issues that I wish that we saw. We do get kind of a cool montage here of each of the 5 people and the kind of ways in which they harness the energy of the universe as the primal force of the universe, as the warlocks and guardians of their respective dimensions. So Dumador, it's raw, unbridled passion bursting from him. For Tanith, it's peaceful emerald starlight. So she's very fey-like, I guess. To Savistar, the kind of dragon dude, it's eternal mystical flame. For Xenia, it's volcanic burst of psychic energy rising from the dark caverns of a twisted mind. And for Argon, it's the force that binds subatomic particles to be manipulated by cybernetic impulses. So you get like each of them have like a very distinct flavor in which they channel that primal force of the universe. It mixes, and through that mixing of power, Morbid is able to pull the race back into the portal and bind the portal. So here we go. And so since they completed that, Dumador is like, all right, victory at last. Fire! And all these people start coming out of the woodwork and shooting arrows. And so Morbid is like, if I had known you were planning treachery, I would have come prepared. So you get Morbid didn't really even know that this was happening. So he's kind of a little pissed. The action here kind of loses again some of its flavor. It seems like he was kind of having to rush a little bit. People are getting pierced with arrows. I don't really understand what's happening here. Is she holding up a mannequin head or just another head? In the way that the black that like this is a very poor panel. And then out of nowhere, this is hilarious. The arrow going through. Out of nowhere, Xenia is like, well, you know what? I'm going to make everybody stop because I got an atomic bomb. And they're like, wait, what? Yep, that's right. I'm going to let it loose. And that's the end of issue 3. She just pulled out an atomic bomb out of nowhere. She's just crazy. This is a preview for Stark Future, which is another book I'm collecting. And I'm hoping to get all of from Aircell. It's a really cool, interesting cover, and we got those airbrush tones again. But man, yeah, we got that cartoon in the back that I don't care. I'm sorry, I just don't care about it. Cool preview for Dragon Wing. And what's really interesting about this issue, though, so again, I was disappointed about the way the artwork looked like it was kind of getting rushed, and we're losing some of those airbrushes and tones. But back here, Mark Shaneblum writes an editorial about Jack Kirby, which, this is Aircell. It's an independent comic. And they're basically kind of talking about, like, the shit that was going down in the 80s where Marvel was, kind of not treating Kirby right. That he was fighting to get back his artwork and to get at least just recognition for the things he created, like Fantastic Four, X-Men, so on and so forth, which at that time he wasn't really being given any credit. Oh God, I can't believe, what is this camera doing? So he kind of just talks about, like, we would not have comics as they are today without Kirby. We just wouldn't. He contributed so much. Like, for you to treat him like this, Marvel is shitty. So he deserves more. And that's basically, that's basically what this article is, which I thought was really interesting to show up in an independent book. Mark Shaneblum is a publisher of Matrix Graphics. He was a writer, co-creator of Northgard, which I know the Day Brothers had a part in. And Northgard was like Canada's best known superhero. Northgard is a book I want to get because I'm a Day Brothers fan. So I gotta, do that. But I don't think he has a whole lot to do with Aircell. Aircell basically just invited him, or like he asked to be able to put in this editorial, and they agreed. So I thought that was kind of cool. That's pretty badass. Maelstrom. Whoa. Hello. I haven't seen this book around at all. But he's an unstoppable force. He's got that really excellent, like, butt posture that many rockers in the 80s had. But this looks badass and something that I want in my collection. So there we go. Warlock 2 and 3. together in a single video, and I will continue my Warlock coverage here. You can see in the description my link to Warlock number 1, and in the future it'll have the respective links to the other Warlock 5s, once I get all those complete. But thank you, everybody. Please help support me on my Patreon and in my shop. You can buy my books and comics. Love you all out there. Keep it psycho.